This is Community Close-Up with Jay Dow. Brought to you by Jacoby & Myers, New York's personal injury attorneys.
Welcome to PIX11 Community Close-Up. I'm your host, Jay Dow. Jury selection is now underway in the blockbuster federal criminal trial of Sean Diddy Combs. What you don't get from so many quick news stories or posts on your social media feed is context about this unbelievably complicated case. We are digging deep into our archives to give you just that, and we recently sat down exclusively with legendary criminal defense attorney Ben Brafman for a discussion about his former client and the criminal case against him. Even for someone with the most ordinary background,
this is the city that made me Diddy, and I want you to see it.
It would be inadequate, perhaps even unfair, to try to sum up their life by focusing on its darkest chapter with a single soundbite.
In case you were wondering what happened to Sean Combs recently.
So for a man with as many names,
Puffy Combs is taking his rap to the radio.
Don't call him Puffy anymore.
Well, P. Diddy playing Big Daddy tonight.
As he has professions.
From music to acting.
He's the man MTV has put in charge of finding the talent for the sequel to Making the Band.
P. Diddy may be famous for his white parties, but the White House?
The question we hear over and over again is, how did Sean Diddy Combs go from wonderkind record producer who put legends on the map?
You know if the time is right, I don't wanna fuss and fight.
From Mary J. Blige to the late Biggie Smalls.
Your hands in the air if you's a true player.
End up an accused felon facing federal criminal charges for sex trafficking and racketeering.
Including using force and coercion to get his alleged victims to perform sex acts.
Now developing at this hour, music icon Sean Diddy Combs behind bars, arrested by federal agents last night in New York City.
Sean Combs currently sits in a federal jail. Jury selection on the calendar for a blockbuster trial.
If convicted on these charges, P. Diddy faces life in prison.
If you followed Combs' career, you know there have been plenty of peaks and valleys. Someone who started from the bottom.
Just trying to get an internship from, Russell Simmons, Leo Cohen, Andre Harrell, and I was calling them, and, they wasn't taking my call.
Persistence that ultimately paid off. Diddy, in terms of his influence on hip-hop culture, was its first mogul, who was both flashy and business savvy.
As part of the deal, Puffy acquires his company, including the complete artist roster and the entire catalog.
A force of nature who paved the way for modern-day multi-hyphenates who look like him to be able to step into fashion.
We're launching Sean John Boys.
And onto the stage with confidence and bravado.
Playing his part in Raisin in the Sun on Broadway.
Diddy stood tall in his native New York.
P. Diddy Combs has unveiled the biggest billboard ever to hang in Times Square.
As corporate America embraced him.
We trying to do positive things.
For his philanthropy.
You gave a little money away today too, didn't you?
We gave $5,000 away.
And for being a man who kept his ear to the streets while building a billion-dollar brand. About those valleys, the road bumps in Combs' career.
And Puff Daddy could face prison time if he misses one more court appearance in the Hamptons.
Including the 1999 gun charge that almost derailed his career.
Puff Daddy, anything you want to say to your fans?
A case documented with vigor among his fans and within the media.
A couple and a bodyguard came running out of the club. Fenton says P. Diddy ordered him to speed away from the scene.
Diddy was acquitted and went on to enjoy a nearly unrivaled career that soared for the next 2 decades, until allegations of abuse and assault surfaced in 2023 from Cassie Ventura, his longtime partner and singer on his record label. Allegations which snowballed into a blockbuster federal case. Now, as Combs prepares for trial, there are open questions about what will be his legacy when the dust settles. Joining me now is Sean Diddy Combs' former criminal defense attorney, Benjamin Brafman. Ben, thanks for being here. Want to point out that you are not representing Sean Diddy Combs in his existing current federal criminal case, but you, more than so many people, have a lot of experience dealing with Combs as a criminal defendant. You were instrumental in getting his acquittal in that 1999 gun case. So I want to ask you first, what do you make of the government's strength in this case compared to when you represented him 26 years ago?
Well, 22 years ago, 25 years ago, it was the trial of the decade, primarily because of who Diddy was. The charges were quite common, but, you know, because of his status as a major celebrity, that case was an interesting experience for me, and it was a media frenzy. I think the case today is a lot different. The charges are substantially more serious, and the gun case, which turned into a gun and a bribery case, you know, it was what it was. It took 8 weeks. The jury acquitted him of everything, and he turned out to be, as I predicted he would be, one of the most successful African-American entrepreneurs of our time, and maybe even in the history of the world.
Well, a successful entrepreneur regardless of race. I mean, he's a billionaire.
Right.
What do you make of the fact that although he's charged with racketeering conspiracy, right now he is the only accused conspirator in this case?
Well, that's quite common in federal court. The fact that they charge a conspiracy does not require them to name as a defendant every person who they're going to claim was a member of the conspiracy. Many people are unindicted co-conspirators in many criminal conspiracy cases, certainly in federal court. That relaxes the rules of evidence a little bit, charging a conspiracy, but the fact that he's going to be the only person sitting at the table, you know, that's the way they decided to proceed.
Do you believe that there are other former employees or other associates who could be compelled to testify against him?
I think when you read the indictment, it's clear that they have been compelled, or maybe some of them didn't have to be compelled. There's a lot of suggestion in the indictment that former employees were themselves abused in one way or another. If these allegations turn out to be true, you know, those people may have decided that they prefer to testify.
You're a seasoned attorney. I want your opinion on what is the key to the defense in getting him off, and then what is the key to the prosecution's case?
I think the prosecution case needs to prove what's charged in the indictment, and the indictment charges serious allegations. If those allegations turn out to be true and supported by the evidence, then it's going to be a tough case to defend. I think one of the sad parts, in my opinion, of what happened to the defense team is that maybe the best team member, Tony Rico, who I think is really a great trial lawyer, I mean, he's no longer part of the team. It's my understanding that, you know, he just decided he didn't want to have anything more to do with the case for, you know, a variety of reasons. But I think he was a tremendous asset that they lost.
Ben Brafman, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much for being with us.
My pleasure.
Coming up, turning a drowning tragedy into hope during National Water Safety Month. Stay with us.
You're watching Community Close-Up with Jay Dow.
May is National Water Safety Month, and drowning continues to be a leading cause of death in this country. It's a chilling and intensely personal statistic for Ziggy Mulugeta. Her husband drowned in their backyard pool while playing with their young daughter just hours before her planned 4th birthday party. This is her story. Ziggy Mulugeta, standing in the shadows of the Bergen County, New Jersey red brick home where she experienced the happiest,
everybody around us was excited for us,
and saddest days of her life.
I could see the pool of blood forming around his head.
With the love of her life, her late husband, physician and entrepreneur, Yinka Akisanya.
Yinka was an incredible man.
Yinka was also a loving and doting father who drowned tragically in his own backyard pool in June of 2022, just hours before the family was set to celebrate their daughter's 4th birthday. Ziggy says Yinka did not know how to swim.
We just need to be educated.
A still mourning widow, summoning the strength to tell her story publicly for the first time in honor of National Water Safety Month and her late husband.
I wanted his legacy to stand for something more than yeah.
Take me back to that day.
That morning, we were just setting up. It was for her birthday. I was putting the balloons up.
Yinka playing in the pool with their then 4-year-old daughter.
We started out on the shallow end and then went over to the deep end. And a couple minutes later, Nala says, you know, where's my dad? They notice he's underwater. I can't believe what I'm seeing. They helped me pull him out. At that point, I started yelling. The ambulance came at that point, and it was too late.
Do you think the family just did not understand what was happening at that moment?
I think it's a cultural thing or something, yeah. Nobody swims. Nobody swims. And this is the reason why we're doing this.
Yeah. This is Ziggy's foundation, Swim for Yinka.
Even before the incident, I felt strongly about, you know, Black people not knowing how to swim and the stereotype behind it. Unfortunately, that literally took place in my backyard.
The national stats are staggering. According to the CDC, drowning is the leading cause of death in the United States for children 1 to 4 years old, and second leading cause of death for kids up to 14 years old. More troubling, the data shows Black children, teens, and adults are 1.5 to 3 times more likely to drown, depending on their age, than their white counterparts.
The numbers tell us it's very real.
Alyssa Magrum is executive director of the National Drowning Prevention Alliance.
There's a lot with access to swim lessons, access to water safety education resources that is not equitable across all people in the United States.
The idea is to, you know, get more students enrolled so that they are learning how to swim. No age is too young or too old. You know, just don't let fear get in the way. And it's a life-saving skill.
For Ziggy, what does matter is keeping the memories alive from her short but wonderful marriage to her beloved Yinka.
I didn't want someone else to have to experience the type of pain and agony I went through.
If you would like to learn more about the Swim for Yinka Foundation, visit our website, PIX11.com. Coming up, the real-life impact of deep funding cuts to rare disease research, a personal look at what they mean for one woman's hope for a cure. That's right after the break.
You're watching Community Close-Up with Jay Dow.
Just in the last few days, the National Institutes of Health reportedly cut another 200 jobs toward a Trump administration goal to eliminate a total of 20,000 positions. Recent funding cuts impact not just the Cancer Research Institute, but grants focused on rare disease research. The impact, of course, is intensely personal for tens of thousands of people who are relying on NIH to change their lives. James Ford explains.
I never thought that I was that different.
Lauren Rutolo isn't particularly different from anyone else, but the author, speaker, and content creator talks about how she does stand out.
I have McCune-Albright syndrome. It's a very rare disease. At the age of 8, I actually stopped growing.
Rutolo has gone from being only a bone disease patient to also becoming an advocate.
The amount of cuts that have been made is a significant issue.
She's talking about cuts to research projects at the National Institutes of Health, or NIH, by far the world's largest funder of biomedical research. The NIH gives out about $47 billion in grants yearly. Of those, more than $2 billion have been cut, or nearly 5% of all research.
At the end of the day, it affects patient care.
For more than 15 years, Rutolo has been one of a variety of patients in studies and treatment of her rare bone disease at NIH headquarters in Maryland.
I got to meet children with it, and they got to see me, and I got to tell them that it's going to be okay.
But a recent visit to lobby on Capitol Hill, she says, showed her how under attack many programs are.
The agency at the NIH, that my study is in, 17% of the staff was cut that day.
It was part of an effort to cut up to 20,000 jobs ordered by Robert F. Kennedy Jr., Secretary of Health and Human Services, which oversees the NIH.
We're streamlining the agency.
It seems like this is just the start.
Noam Ross runs Our Open Sci, a data science nonprofit that's collected details about canceled healthcare grants.
These grants are planned out for years and then can take 5 years, 6 years, 7 years to complete this research. And they can only do that if the government is going to make a commitment and keep its promises.
Not doing so, he says,
Touchy, over here,
deprives millions of people, like the activist and dog owner who says she's no different than anyone else, from being no different than anyone else, despite her rare disease. That's why lately she's been going to Washington frequently to lobby and try to prevent more cuts. She says she's counting on comments like this from the HHS secretary.
If we make mistakes, we're going to admit it, and we're going to remedy it.
Which is why Rutolo says she's spoken out and encourages everyone to do the same.
I can't just sit down and not do anything.
For Community Close-Up, I'm James Ford.
Great reporting as usual from Dr. Ford, and a big thank you to Lauren for sharing her story. Coming up, Our Community, Your Voice, a story of service to the homeless and underserved, told in their words. That's coming up. In New Rochelle, a chef who owns a popular burger joint is using a deeply personal childhood experience to fuel his appetite for community service for the homeless and underserved. It's Our Community, Your Voice, told in their words.
I think most of you know we have a special guest tonight from AJ's Burgers in New Rochelle. He prepared the dinner. Where are you, AJ? AJ is not a stranger to Hope. He's cooked for us. AJ loves Hope and we love him.
I'm making food as though I was cooking for the best person in my family. When I was a young kid, I remember being in a car in Brooklyn. I had stopped in a lot of traffic at red light, and I saw this guy, not unlike my grandfather, pick a cookie up off the street that a truck ran over to eat and watch them eat it. So stuff like that resonates.
What did that moment mean for you?
It was just feeling bad for the people that don't have food.
This room is packed.
The need is huge.
Well, we've been here for 7 years now, approximately. We're kind of struggling to try to get a place and stuff like that. If it wasn't for Hope, we would probably just starve. Because we have a lot of friends here now. It's like coming home to dinner.
Come up here for a nice meal and camaraderie. I'm 81 years old. I have a home. I have a house. I don't feel like cooking. I come up here and get a meal and I take it home. I don't have to come. We're having hamburgers tonight.
You're having chicken cacciatore.
I didn't have that in a long time.
They don't understand what goes on behind the scenes and what it takes to actually cook and then get it out and then get it to them.
I'm not just throwing the chicken. This is a mixture of Scarborough Fare, parsley, sage, rosemary, thyme, paprika, lots of garlic, onion powder.
Without Alan, Hope would not be able to do many of the things that we do, especially cooking at night. There are a lot of times when he cooks for us, we don't have enough food, and he will say to us, it doesn't matter.
It's going to be delicious. They're people, and we're all people, so I like to really put some passion and love into what we're doing, because this makes me feel good.
He has been like a key part of us serving food at Hope to the community.
Alan and Hope, two community heroes working in partnership. What do you think about that?
That is really nice. I would not have thought of it that way, but his heart is just so big.
I understand all of this that we just saw is at risk.
It absolutely is. At the end of this summer, our lease is up for the second time. We've been asked to leave.
by our landlords.
Let's hope the exposure that this story gets helps with the fundraising effort.
I can't imagine a city without hope, New Rochelle without hope, but this is definitely in jeopardy of not being around, and we've been around for the last 40 years.
Tell you this, after watching AJ cook all that food, I walked out of that kitchen hungry. Fingers crossed that AJ and Hope can keep the good work going. We keep our ears to the ground looking for stories to tell, the good and important ones. So let us know. Email us at communitycloseup@PIX11.com. I'm your host, Jay Dow. On behalf of the entire Community Close-Up team, thank you so much for watching. See you next time on PIX11 Community Close-Up.